2 weeks had passed since the rescue. The human ship was on its way back to the main station, carrying its crew and all the survivors they had saved from the slaver vessel. But one survivor had become very special to everyone on board. Bomi had changed so much in those 2 weeks. The dirty, matted fur was now clean and soft, shining with health. The wounds had healed, just as Hana said they would, leaving only small marks that would fade with time. The cub had gained weight from regular meals and no longer looked like a skeleton covered in fur. But the biggest change was in Bomi's eyes. The terror that had lived there was almost gone. In its place was warmth and curiosity, and something that looked very much like love. Yuna had barely left. The cub sighed since that first night. She slept in the medical bay, then in her own quarters once Bomi was strong enough to move. The crew had watched their serious lieutenant turn into something else entirely. Something softer. Something that smiled and laughed and made silly sounds to make a small alien child happy. No one complained. If anything, they loved seeing it. The whole crew had fallen for Bomi. They brought toys made from spare parts. They made soft foods when the nutrient packs got boring. They sat with the cub when Yuna had to attend to her duties, always making sure Bomi was never alone. But now the ship was approaching the station, and a message had come from Galactic Command. They wanted a full report. They wanted to know about every survivor from the slaver ship. And they wanted a meeting in person to discuss what would happen next. Yuna read the message 3 times. There was something about the wording that made her stomach feel cold. They called Bomi and the other survivors recovered assets. They talked about processing and placement protocols. They did not talk about them like they were living beings. They talked about them like they were things. The meeting was held in a large room on the station. Yuna walked in with her report in hand, wearing her cleanest uniform. Across the table sat 3 officials from Galactic Command. 2 were human. 1 was a foreign, a species known for their cold logic and lack of emotion. The head official was a man named Director Park. He was old, with gray hair and hard eyes that looked like they had seen too much and stopped caring long ago. "Lieutenant Yuna," he said without warmth, "please sit. We have reviewed the initial reports from your mission. Very successful. 37 survivors recovered, 1 slaver ship destroyed." "Thank you, Director. However, we have some questions about 1 survivor in particular." He looked down at a screen in front of him. "The Velen cub. You spent considerable time and resources on this one. Your report says you sat with it for almost 12 hours before it would even let anyone else near. That is correct, Director. That seems like a waste of valuable time. We have protocols for handling traumatized survivors. Medical sedation, then standard processing. You could have had the cub contained in minutes." Yuna felt that cold feeling in her stomach grow stronger. "With respect, Director, sedation would have only added to the cub's trauma. It was already terrified of everyone and everything. Knocking it out and forcing treatment would have proven that all beings mean harm. I chose a different approach. An approach that tied up a senior officer for half a day." The director did not sound impressed. "And from what I understand, you have continued this special treatment for the past 2 weeks." "I have. You have turned your quarters into a nursery. You have had crew members making toys and cooking special meals. You have disrupted normal ship operations for 1 damaged alien child." Yuna's hands tightened under the table, but she kept her voice calm. "I helped a traumatized survivor learn to trust again. I showed a hurt child that not everyone in the galaxy wants to cause pain. I do not see that as disruption. I see it as what we should be doing." The foreign official spoke for the first time. Its voice was flat and mechanical. The resources spent on 1 survivor could have been distributed among many. Logic suggests this was an inefficient use of time and materials. Logic suggests, Una repeated. But what does compassion suggest? What does basic decency suggest? That cub is not a number on a report. Bomi is a living being who suffered terrible things and needed special care. Bomi? Director Park raised an eyebrow. You named it? Of course I named it. Every child deserves a name. The director leaned back in his chair. Lieutenant, we appreciate your passion, but you have to understand our position. The galaxy is full of suffering. There are millions of beings who need help. We cannot spend 12 hours sitting on a floor with every single one of them. We need efficient systems. We need protocols. We need to process survivors quickly and move on to the next mission. Process, Una said. The word tasted bad in her mouth. Is that what we do? Process beings like they are packages? Sort them into categories and ship them off? We do what is necessary. What is necessary? Una stood up from her chair. She knew she should stay calm. She knew she should be respectful. But the cold feeling had turned into fire. What is necessary is what I did on that slaver ship. What is necessary is showing a terrified child that there is still good in the galaxy. What is necessary is taking the time to heal wounds properly, not just the ones you can see, but the ones inside. The room was quiet. The official stared at her. Sit down, Lieutenant, Director Park said. No. Una's voice was strong. I have followed orders my whole career. I have done everything by the book. But there are some things that matter more than books and protocols and efficient processing. That cub matters. Bomi matters. Every survivor we rescued matters. They are not damaged goods. They are not assets to be processed. They are people. She took a deep breath. You want to know why I sat on that cold floor for 12 hours? Because every frightened child deserves someone who will simply sit beside them. Because sometimes the best way to help is not to force and control, but to wait and be patient. Because that is what makes us better than the slavers. Not our weapons or our ships, but our compassion. The foreign official tilted its head. This is emotional reasoning. It cannot be the basis for policy. Then your policy is wrong. Director Park looked at her for a long moment. Something in his hard eyes shifted. Just a little. You feel strongly about this. I do. And what would you have us do differently? Una thought about Bomi, probably playing with a toy made from engine parts right now. She thought about that tiny paw touching her hand for the first time. She thought about the purring sound and the warmth of a small body in her lap. Train people to understand trauma, she said. Do not just process survivors. Help them heal. Take the time that each being needs, not the time that is most convenient. And remember that every number in a report is a living being with fears and hopes and the ability to love if given the chance. The room was quiet again. Then Director Park did something unexpected. He nodded. Your report will be filed, he said. And I will consider your suggestions. It was not a promise. It was not a victory. But it was something. Una nodded back and turned to leave. She had a cub to get back to Dot as she walked down the station corridor. Her communicator beeped. It was a message from Tay. The message had a picture attached. Bomi, sitting in a pile of blankets, holding a toy ship and looking at the camera with those big, beautiful eyes. Under the picture was a simple note. Someone is waiting for you. Una smiled, her heart full of warmth. She walked faster. Behind her, the officials were still talking about protocols and processing and efficiency. But somewhere in the galaxy, the story of a human who sat on the floor was being shared. Other ships heard about it. Other crews. It spread from station to station, planet to planet. Because every frightened child deserves someone who will simply sit beside them. Those words traveled across the stars. And maybe, just maybe, they started to change things. Not fast, not everywhere, but in small ways, one child at a time. And that was how humanity would be remembered. Not for their weapons or their wars, but for a lieutenant who sat on a cold floor because a scared baby needed someone who would not raise their hand to strike. Some legacies are built with fire and steel. Others are built with patience and love. Yuna's legacy was just beginning. The cub slept for a long time. Yuna watched over it, still sitting on that hard floor, still not moving. Her whole body ached now. She had been in this room for almost 8 hours. But she did not care about the pain. All she cared about was the small creature sleeping peacefully just a hand's length away from her dot in sleep. The cub looked even younger. Its face was relaxed, and for the first time, Yuna could see what it might have looked like before all the pain. It was beautiful. Its fur was the color of autumn leaves, orange and gold with darker marks around its eyes. Its small ears twitched as it dreamed. Yuna wondered what it was dreaming about. She hoped it was something good. A memory from before the slavers, maybe. A memory of warmth and safety and love. She needed to give this child a name. She could not keep calling it the cub in her mind. It deserved more than that dot. She thought about it for a while. She wanted a name that meant something good, something hopeful, something that showed this was a new beginning. Bomi, she whispered softly. It was a word from her home language. It meant spring, the season when flowers bloom after a long, cold winter. This cub had been through the worst kind of winter. Maybe now, finally, spring could come. Bomi, she said again, testing the name. It felt right. Yes, that is your name now, Bomi. The cub's ear moved at the sound of her voice, but it did not wake up. It just shifted a little in its sleep and kept dreaming. After another hour, Bomi finally woke up. Its big eyes opened slowly, confused at first. Then it saw Yuna, still sitting in the same place, still being quiet and still. The cub tensed for just a moment, remembering fear. But then it relaxed. She was still here. She had not heard it while it slept. She had kept her promise. Good morning, Yuna said gently. Or good evening. I do not actually know what time it is anymore. Bomi looked at her with that wondering look again. Its head tilted to one side, like it was trying to understand this strange creature that kept talking in soft sounds. Are you hungry again? Yuna asked. I have more food. She reached for another nutrient pack, moving slowly so Bomi could see what she was doing. The cub watched, but did not flinch this time. That was progress. Yuna tore open the pack and held out some food on her palm. Bomi came forward without hesitating. It ate from her hand, its small tongue tickling her skin as it licked up every bit of the paste. When the food was gone, something happened that made Yuna's heart skip. Bomi did not move away. It stayed right there, next to her hand, looking up at her face. Then, very slowly, it reached out with one tiny paw and touched her fingers. The touch was light as a feather, barely there at all. But to Yuna, it felt like the most important thing in the whole universe. Hello, Bomi, she whispered, her voice shaking with emotion. It is nice to meet you too. Bomi touched her hand again, a little longer this time. Its small claws were sharp but gentle. It was exploring, learning what this human felt like. Yuna stayed perfectly still, letting the cub take its time. Then Bomi did something unexpected. It pushed its small head against Yuna's hand, like a cat asking to be petted. It was a request for touch. Good touch. Soft touch. Yuna felt tears coming again. This tiny creature, hurt so badly by every hand it had known, was asking to be touched. It was the bravest thing she had ever seen. Very carefully, very gently, she moved her fingers. She stroked the top of Bomi's head, just once, just lightly. The cub's eyes closed and a soft sound came from its throat. Not a scared sound. A happy sound. Something like a purr. Oh, Yuna breathed. Oh, Bomi, you sweet, brave little thing. She petted the cub again, a little more this time. Bomi leaned into her hand, wanting more. All that soft fur that had been so dirty and matted was still there under the dirt. With some cleaning and care, it would be beautiful again. Something was happening that Yuna had not expected so soon. The cub was not just accepting her touch. It was seeking it out. It was choosing to trust her, even after everything it had been through. The strength it took was more than most beings ever showed in their whole lives. Yuna gently scratched behind one torn ear. Bomi made that purring sound again and pushed closer. Before Yuna knew what was happening, the cub had climbed into her lap. She froze, not wanting to do anything wrong. But Bomi seemed to know what it wanted. It curled up right there on her legs, tucking its small head against her stomach. Its eyes closed again, and within moments, it was purring louder than before. Yuna could not hold back the tears anymore. They fell down her face as she looked at this tiny creature in her lap. This child who had known nothing but pain was now choosing to rest on a human's body. It was trust. Real trust. The first trust of a new life. She put one hand on the cub's back, feeling its warmth through the fur. With her other hand, she wiped her eyes. It did not help much. The tears kept coming. You are so brave, she whispered to Bomi. You are the bravest being I have ever met. Do you know that? Bomi just purred and snuggled closer. They stayed like that for a long time. Yuna stroked the cub's fur, being careful around the wounds. Bomi slept and purred and slept some more. The pain and fear of its short life started to seem a little further away. Finally, Hana appeared at the door again. She stopped when she saw the scene in front of her. The tough lieutenant sitting on a dirty floor with a sleeping alien cub in her lap, tears streaming down her face. Oh, Hana said softly. Oh my, it trusts me, Yuna said, her voice thick with tears. It climbed into my lap and went to sleep. It trusts me. Hana came into the room slowly, moving carefully so she would not scare Bomi. The cub woke up a little and looked at the new person. Its body tensed, but Yuna put a gentle hand on its head. It is okay, she told Bomi. This is Hana. She is my friend. She wants to help you feel better. Bomi looked at Hana with nervous eyes, but it did not run away. It stayed in Yuna's lap, trusting her to keep it safe. I need to treat those wounds, Hana said quietly. Can you hold the cub still while I work? Yuna nodded. She gathered Bomi more securely in her arms, holding the small body against her chest. It is okay, Bomi, she said softly. Hana is going to help. I will be right here the whole time. Hana was very gentle. She cleaned the wounds slowly, talking to Bomi in a calm voice the whole time. The cub whimpered a little when the medicine touched the cuts, but it did not try to run. It just pressed closer to Yuna and let the medic work. These are healing well already, Hana said as she applied cream to a burn mark. Young ones heal fast. With proper care, most of these will not even leave scars. What about the scars you can't see? Yuna asked quietly. Hana looked up at her with sad eyes. Those take longer, but they can heal too. With love and patience and time. She glanced at Bomi, who was watching her with less fear now. I think this little one already has a good start. When all the wounds were treated and bandaged, Hana packed up her supplies. You need to get some rest too, Lieutenant. You have been here for almost 12 hours. I know. The cub can be moved to medical now. We have a warm bed ready. Yuna looked down at Bomi, who was looking back up at her. Those big eyes were tired but calm. Trusting. I will take it there myself, Yuna said. And I will stay close by. I do not want it to wake up alone and scared. Hana smiled. I thought you might say that. We set up an extra bed in the medical bay, just in case. Yuna stood up slowly, keeping Bomi secure in her arms. Her legs were stiff and sore from sitting so long, she barely felt it. All she felt was the warm weight of the cub against her chest and the small heartbeat next to her own. "Come on, Bomi," she said softly. "Let us go somewhere warm. You are going to like it. I promise." Bomi snuggled against her, that soft purring sound starting again. It did not care where they were going. It only cared that Yuna was there. And as they walked out of that dark cell and into the light of the hallway, Yuna knew that something had changed. Not just for the cub, but for her too. She had found something worth fighting for beyond battles and reports and duty. She had found a small, scared child who needed her. And she would never, ever let that child down. Hours passed. Real hours, not minutes that felt like hours. Yuna sat on that cold metal floor until she lost feeling in her legs. She did not move. She did not complain. She just sat there, being still and quiet and safe. The crew took turns checking on her. Tay came first, his face showing worry. He looked at his lieutenant sitting on the floor of a dirty cell with a scared alien cub in the corner. "Lieutenant," he said quietly, "the captain wants a report. And your shift ended 2 hours ago. Tell the captain I found a survivor who needs special care." Yuna replied without taking her eyes off the cub. "Tell him I will report when I can." "What should I say about your shift?" "Tell him I am still working." Tay looked like he wanted to say more, but he knew better. He had served with Yuna for 3 years. He knew that look in her eyes. When she decided something, nothing could change her mind. "Yes, Lieutenant," he said, and walked away. Hana came next, carrying a small bag of medical supplies. "The wounds need to be cleaned soon," she said. "Infection could set in." "I know," Yuna said. "Leave the supplies by the door. I will do it when the time is right. You are not trained for medical work. Then train me now. Tell me what to do, step by step. I will do it when the cub lets me close enough." Hannah sighed, but she could see the situation. The cub was calmer now than before, but it was still watching Yuna with careful eyes. If anyone new came into the room, all that progress would be lost. So Hannah sat outside the door and explained everything. How to clean wounds with the special liquid. How to put the healing cream on cuts. How to wrap bandages so they would not be too tight. Yuna listened and remembered every word. "There is one more thing," Hannah said. "The cub is very thin. It needs food and water soon. There are nutrient packs in the bag. They work for most species. You just tear open the top and squeeze the food out like a paste." "Thank you, Hannah. Just be careful. That cub has been through a lot. Healing takes time. I know." Hannah left. Yuna was alone with the cub again. More time passed. The cub had stopped pressing itself so hard against the wall. It was still in the corner, but now it was sitting up, watching Yuna with those big eyes. There was still fear there, but also something else. Something that looked like wonder. Yuna understood. In the cub's experience, beings who came close always caused pain. Beings who raised their hands always hit. But this strange creature had done neither. She had raised her hand, yes, but then she had put it down. She had come close, but then she had stopped. She was just sitting there, not doing anything, not hurting anyone. It made no sense to the cub. And things that make no sense can be interesting, even to someone who is very scared. "You are curious about me," Yuna said softly. "I can see it in your eyes. That is good. Curious is better than scared." She looked at the medical supplies by the door. The cub needed help soon, but she could not force it. If she tried to grab the cub and treat its wounds by force, she would be just like the slavers. She would prove that all hands bring pain. No, there had to be a different way. Yuna had an idea. It was strange, but it might work. She slowly reached for her own arm. The cub watched her carefully. She rolled up her sleeve, showing the skin underneath. Then she picked up the bottle of cleaning liquid from the medical bag. "This is medicine," she said, holding up the bottle so the cub could see. "It helps wounds heal. I am going to show you." She poured a little of the liquid on her own arm. It was cold and stung a little, but she did not react. She kept her face calm. "See?" she said. "It does not hurt much. It feels strange, but it helps." The cub's ears moved forward just a little bit. It was interested. Yuna picked up the healing cream next. She put some on her arm and rubbed it in gently. "This makes the hurt go away faster. It feels nice, actually. Cool and soft." She went through every item in the medical bag the same way. She showed the cub each one, then used it on herself first. The bandages, the cleaning pads, everything. It probably looked silly, a healthy woman treating wounds she did not have. But she did not care about looking silly. When she was done, she put everything back in the bag and set it between herself and the cub. Not too close to either of them. Just in the middle, where the cub could see it. "There," she said. "Now you know what these things are. They help, not hurt. When you are ready, I can use them to make you feel better. But only when you are ready." The cub looked at the bag, then at Yuna, then back at the bag. Its small nose moved as it smelled the air. The medicine had a strange smell, but not a bad one. More time passed. Yuna's back was starting to hurt from sitting so long. Her throat was dry. She was hungry, but she could not move to get food or water for herself. That would mean leaving, and she had promised not to leave. But the cub was hungry too. Yuna could see it looking at the nutrient pack in the bag. Its stomach made small sounds. How long had it been since the poor thing had eaten? Yuna picked up one of the nutrient packs. She tore it open and squeezed a little of the paste onto her finger. The cub watched with wide eyes. "Food," Yuna said. She put the finger in her mouth and ate the paste. It tasted bland, like nothing much, but it was not bad. "See? Safe to eat." She squeezed more paste out onto her hand, making a small pile. Then she set her hand on the floor, palm up, with the food sitting there. She did not move it toward the cub. She just left it there, an offering. "You can have it if you want," she said. "I will not move. I will not grab you. I promise." The cub stared at the food. Its nose moved again, smelling. Its stomach made another sound. The need to eat was fighting against the fear of coming close. For a long time, nothing happened. Yuna kept her hand still, even when it started to shake from holding the same position. She would not move until the cub made its choice. And then, slowly, the cub started to move. It was careful. So careful. It put one small paw on the floor in front of it, ready to jump back at any moment. Then another paw. Then it crept forward, one tiny step at a time. Its eyes never left Yuna's face, watching for any sign of danger. Yuna held her breath. She did not move. She did not even blink if she could help it. The cub came closer. Closer. It was almost to her hand now. Yuna could see the fear in its eyes, but she could also see the hunger. The hunger was winning. Finally, the cub reached her hand. It stopped there, its small face just inches from the food. It sniffed carefully. Then, with a movement almost too fast to see, it grabbed the paste and jumped back to the corner. Yuna let out her breath slowly. Her heart was beating fast, but she kept her face calm. She watched as the cub ate the food quickly, like it was afraid the food would be taken away. When the paste was gone, the cub licked its paws clean. Then it looked at Yuna again. There was something new in its eyes now. Not trust, not yet, but something close. Something that said maybe, just maybe, this strange creature was not so bad. Good, Una said softly, finally lowering her tired hand. That was very brave. You did so well. She squeezed more food onto her hand and held it out again. This time, the cub did not wait as long. It came forward faster, grabbed the food, and went back to its corner. But it did not go as far back this time. It stayed a little closer. They did this again and again. Each time, the cub came a little faster. Each time, it stayed a little closer after eating. The fear was still there, but it was getting smaller. The trust was still tiny, but it was getting bigger after the fourth helping of food. The cub did not go back to the corner at all. It stayed near Una's hand, looking up at her with those big eyes. Its stomach was full now. It was tired. So tired Una did not move. She just watched as the cub's eyes started to close. Its small body swayed with tiredness. It had been so long since it had felt safe enough to sleep, and then, still watching Una's face for danger, the cub lay down on the floor. Not in the corner, not against the wall, just there, near Una's hand, close enough to touch but not quite touching. Within moments, the cub was asleep. Una finally let the tears fall again. Happy tears this time. She had not failed this child. She had found a different way, and it was working. Time passed slowly in the small, dark room. Una did not know how long she had been kneeling there. Her legs were starting to hurt, but she did not move. The Velen cub was still pressed against the corner, still shaking, still watching her with those big, scared eyes. The medic, a woman named Hannah, had come to the door twice. Each time, Una had sent her away with a quiet shake of her head. The cub was not ready. Any new person would only make things worse. Lieutenant, Hannah whispered from outside. That cub needs treatment. I can see wounds from here. I know, Una whispered back. Give me more time. How much time? As much as it takes. Hannah did not look happy, but she stepped back from the door. Una was grateful for her patience. The cub had stopped making sounds a while ago. It just sat there, frozen like a small statue made of fear. Its breathing was fast and shallow. Una could see its tiny chest moving up and down very quickly. That was not good. The baby was so scared that its body was working too hard. Una tried talking again. She spoke about anything and everything. She talked about her home planet, about the blue oceans and green mountains. She talked about her family, about her mother who made the best soup, and her father who liked to sing old songs. She talked about her ship, about her crew, about the stars outside. The cub did not understand any of it. But slowly, very slowly, its breathing started to calm down just a little bit. Maybe her voice was helping. Maybe the soft sounds were better than scary silence. After a long time, Una decided to try again. The cub needed help. Those wounds could get infected. She could not wait forever. I am going to move closer now, she said gently. Just a little bit. I need to see if you are okay. She shifted forward on her knees, moving maybe 2 hand lengths closer. The cub watched her, but did not make a sound this time. That was progress. Good, Una said with a small smile. That was good. See? Nothing bad happened. She waited a few minutes, then moved a little more, and a little more. Each time, she stopped and waited. Each time, she watched the cub for signs of too much fear. Finally, she was close enough to really see the cub's condition. And what she saw made her heart hurt even more. The wounds were worse than she had thought. There were cuts on the cub's arms and legs. Some of them were old and had started to heal badly. Some of them were new and still had dried blood around them. There were burn marks too, small circles that looked like they came from some kind of tool. Someone had hurt this baby on purpose, many times. "Oh, little one," Yuna whispered. "What did they do to you?" The cub's ears moved at her voice. They were torn in places, like someone had pulled on them too hard. Yuna felt the deep anger rise up in her chest again. She wanted to find the people who had done this and make them pay. But that would not help the child in front of her. "I need to check your wounds," she said softly. "I am just going to look, okay? I will not hurt you." She raised her hand slowly, very slowly. She reached out toward the cub's nearest arm, where a long cut ran from its elbow to its wrist. She moved carefully, like she was trying not to scare a small bird. The cub watched her hand come closer. Its eyes grew even bigger. Its whole body went stiff. And then, just as Yuna's fingers were about to touch its fur, the cub flinched. It was not a small flinch. The cub jerked its whole body away, throwing itself against the wall so hard that Yuna heard the sound of impact. A high, terrified cry came from its throat. It covered its head with its small arms and curled into a tight ball, waiting for pain that it was sure would come. Yuna froze. Her hand stayed in the air for 1 second. Then she pulled it back like she had touched fire. The cub was shaking so hard now that Yuna could hear its teeth clicking together. Small sounds came from it, sounds that needed no translation. It was begging her not to hurt it. This tiny baby expected nothing but pain from a raised hand. Something broke inside Yuna, not a big, loud breaking. A quiet one, a deep one. She felt tears come to her eyes, and this time she could not stop them. In her years of service, she had seen terrible things. She had seen battles and death and the worst that beings could do to each other. But nothing had prepared her for this. Nothing had prepared her for a baby so hurt and so scared that it expected pain from any touch at all. She thought about what this cub's life must have been like. Every time a hand came toward it, that hand had brought pain. Every touch had been cruel. Every moment had been fear and suffering. And now, here was Yuna with her raised hand, looking just like every other monster this child had known. The tears fell down her face. She did not try to wipe them away. "I am sorry," she whispered. "I am so sorry." The cub was still curled up, still waiting for the hit that would come. Because in its short, terrible life, the hit always came, but not this time. Yuna lowered her hand. She put both hands in her lap where the cub could see them. Then she did something she had never done before in a rescue mission. She sat all the way down on the cold metal floor. Not kneeling, not ready to move quickly, just sitting, like she had nowhere else to be. The floor was hard and cold. She could feel it through her uniform pants. But she did not care. She made herself as small and unthreatening as possible. She was not a soldier right now. She was not a lieutenant. She was just a person, sitting quietly with a scared child. "I will not touch you," she said softly. "I will not raise my hand again. I promise." The cub stayed curled up for a long time. Yuna did not move. She just sat there, being still, being quiet, being safe. Slowly, very slowly, the cub lifted its head. It peeked out from behind its arms, just enough to see what was happening. It saw Yuna sitting on the floor with her hands in her lap. It saw that she was not coming closer. It saw the tears on her face. Yuna could see confusion in those big eyes. The cub did not understand. Why had the hit not come? Why was this creature just sitting there? Why was water coming from its eyes? "I am sad," Yuna explained, even though she knew the cub could not understand. "I am sad because someone hurt you so much that you expect pain from everyone. I am sad because you are just a baby and you have known nothing but fear. I am sad because the galaxy can be so cruel to the small and the weak." She took a shaky breath. "But I am also making you a promise, little one. I will not hurt you. Not today, not ever. No one on my ship will hurt you. You are safe now. I know you do not believe it yet. That is okay. I will wait until you do. The cub lowered its arms a little more. It was still pressed against the wall, still scared. But it was watching her now with something other than pure terror. There was curiosity there too. Small, careful curiosity. Yuna gave a tiny smile through her tears. You are wondering about me, are you not? That is good. Keep wondering. I will be right here, being boring and safe, for as long as you need. She settled herself more comfortably on the hard floor. Outside the door, she could hear her crew moving around, doing their work. Hannah was probably getting worried. Tay would want to report soon. There were many things Yuna should be doing right now, but she was not going anywhere. Not until this small, broken child understood that not every hand was raised to strike. Some hands were raised to help. Some hands were raised to heal. And Yuna would wait as long as it took for this cub to learn that truth. We have all the time in the world, she told the cub softly. And I am not going anywhere. The cub blinked at her with its big, wet eyes. It did not understand her words. But maybe it was starting to understand something else. Maybe it was starting to understand that this strange creature was different from all the others. For the first time, the cub's breathing began to slow down for real. It was still scared. It was still hurt. But deep down, in some small part of its heart, a tiny seed of something new was trying to grow. It would take time to turn that seed into trust. But Yuna had already decided. She had all the time in the world. The ship was dead. It floated in the black space like a broken toy, its lights gone dark and its engines cold. Smoke came from the holes in its side where the human weapons had hit it. The battle was over. The slavers had lost. Lieutenant Yuna walked through the dark hallways of the enemy ship. Her boots made loud sounds on the metal floor. Behind her, 2 soldiers followed with their weapons ready. The air smelled bad, like burning metal and something worse. Something that made her stomach feel sick. Check every room, she said into her radio. Find any survivors. Slavers go to holding. Anyone else gets medical help first. She had done this many times before. The Human Federation had been fighting the slaver ships for 3 years now. Every time they caught one, they found terrible things inside. Yuna had seen enough suffering to last her whole life. But she kept going. Someone had to. The ship was a Corvan vessel. The Corvans were not a strong species, but they were cruel. They caught beings from weak planets and sold them to anyone who would pay. It was illegal in most of the galaxy. But laws meant nothing in the dark spaces between stars. Yuna turned a corner and found a long hallway, with many small doors on each side. Cells. This was where they kept the captured ones. Her heart became heavy in her chest. Sergeant Tay, she called to the soldier behind her. Start opening these doors. Be gentle. These people have been through enough. Tay nodded and moved to the first door. He used his tool to break the lock. The door slid open with a loud sound. Inside, they found 3 beings from a species Yuna did not know. They were thin and scared, but alive. A medic came quickly to help them. Door after door, they found more victims. Some were in bad shape. Some did not move at all. Yuna wrote everything in her report as she walked. Her face stayed calm, but inside she felt a deep anger. How could anyone do this to other living beings? They were almost at the end of the hallway when Yuna heard something. It was very quiet, almost too quiet to hear. A small sound, like a scared animal trying to hide. She stopped walking and held up her hand. Everyone behind her stopped too. Did you hear that? She asked. Tay shook his head. No, Lieutenant. What was it? Yuna listened again. There it was. a tiny whimper coming from somewhere ahead. She moved slowly toward the sound. It led her to the last door in the hallway. This door was different from the others. It was smaller, and there was no window to see inside. She looked at the lock. It had extra security on it. Whatever was inside, the slavers wanted to keep it very safe. Or very hidden. "Open it," she said. Tay worked on the lock for a long time. Finally, it clicked and the door slid open. The room inside was very dark. Yuna turned on the light attached to her uniform and stepped inside. The room was small, no bigger than a closet. There was no bed, no water, nothing but cold metal walls and floor. And in the corner, pressed against the wall as far as possible from the door, was a small creature. Yuna felt her breath stop. It was a Velen cub. She had seen pictures of Velens before. They were a peaceful species from a planet far away. They looked like something between a fox and a cat, with soft fur and large ears. Their eyes were big and round, made for seeing in low light. Adult Velens stood as tall as humans, but this one was just a baby. It could not be more than 2 or 3 years old in human terms. The cub's fur was dirty and matted. Even in the dim light, Yuna could see marks on its small body. Bruises, cuts, signs of terrible treatment. Its big eyes looked at her with pure terror. "Oh no," Yuna whispered. Her voice was soft, but the cub still flinched at the sound. She had seen many bad things in her years of service. She had seen death and pain and cruelty. But something about this small, shaking creature broke something inside her. This was just a baby, a child. And someone had heard it again and again. "Lieutenant?" Tay asked from behind her. "What did you find?" "A Velen cub," she said quietly. "Just a baby. Get the medic. But tell them to wait outside for now." "Yes, Lieutenant." Yuna heard Tay walk away. She stayed very still, watching the cub. It had pressed itself so hard against the wall that it looked like it was trying to push through the metal. Its small body shook with fear. Its eyes never left her. She knew she should call for help. She should let the medical team take care of this. That was the proper way to do things. But the cub was so scared that Yuna worried any more people would make it worse. Slowly, very slowly, she lowered herself down. She got on her knees to make herself smaller. The cub watched her every move with those huge, frightened eyes. "It is okay," she said softly. "I am not going to hurt you. You are safe now." The words meant nothing to the cub. It probably did not understand human language. But Yuna hoped her soft voice might help a little. She had learned that sometimes tone mattered more than words. She stayed on her knees for a long moment, just looking at the cub. It was so thin. She could see its ribs through its dirty fur. How long had it been here? Days? Weeks? Where were its parents? Were they taken too, or something worse? Yuna felt tears trying to form in her eyes, but she pushed them back. Crying would not help this child. Action would help. She thought about what to do next. The cub needed medical attention. Those wounds needed to be cleaned and treated. But first, she had to get close enough to help. And right now, the small creature looked ready to die of fear just from her being in the same room. "I am going to move a little closer," she said in her softest voice. "Just a little bit. Is that okay?" Of course, there was no answer. The cub just kept shaking and staring. Yuna moved forward just a small amount, maybe the length of her hand. The cub made a high-pitched sound of fear and pressed harder against the wall. Its claws scratched at the metal, trying to get away even though there was nowhere to go. Yuna stopped immediately. Okay. I stopped. See? I stopped. She sat back on her heels and let out a long breath. This was going to be harder than she thought. The cub was too scared to let anyone near it. And Yuna understood why. Every time someone had come close to this baby, bad things had happened. Pain had followed. Why would this time be any different? I need to think, she said to herself. She looked at the cub again. Despite everything, it was still beautiful. Its fur might be dirty, and its body might be hurt, but there was something special about it. Something innocent that the slavers had tried to break but had not completely destroyed. Yuna made a decision. She would not leave this cub. Not until it was safe and cared for. She did not know how long it would take, but she would find a way to help this child. I am going to stay right here, she told the cub. I will not come closer if you do not want me to. But I am not leaving you alone. Not ever again. The cub did not understand her words. But maybe, just maybe, it could understand that she was not going away. And for now, that would have to be enough.